going on, guys? We're at the Ferrari Roma today. This has a 3.9 liter twin turbo V8 engine. This is about 612 horsepower and 561 foot-pounds of torque. We're on a really good back road here in Tennessee, and we did a whole review on this car today. I really hope you enjoy checking out the content as always. I'm gonna go ahead and give it just a little bit of beans here so you can experience what this car is like. You ready? Let's go. And that right there is 100 miles an hour. And I will tell you guys, that's not giving it the full beans yet. This car is not broken in. That was shifting at 6,000 RPMs, and that was about 75% throttle. This is a very, very fast, very capable car. Even though this is the quote GT car, the Grand Touring car that's replacing the Portofino and whatnot, this is still a Ferrari. Prodigious amounts of power, 0 to 60 still in the low 3s, runs a quarter mile in the 11s, high 10s. Definitely a fun, capable car. I love it. What's going on, everyone? My name is Adam, and welcome back to Driven Productions, where we are in the HQ today shooting this incredibly cool and brand new Ferrari Roma and a $316,000 MSRP. Now, these start at $250, so this one has quite a few goodies. And we're gonna go through the entire car today. I'm gonna show you the engine, the interior, the exterior, the trunk. We're gonna take a point of view drive. I'm gonna give you my thoughts on the spec. I'm just gonna give you my overall thoughts on the car. You might be looking to buy one of these. If you clicked on the thumbnail, you're probably interested in purchasing one of these, so hopefully this video helps you. This replaces the Ferrari Portofino. It's built on the similar chassis. This is a Grand Touring car versus a mid-engine supercar like an F8, 488, 458, etc. More like actually the Aston Martin Vanquish sitting next to it, and I gotta say, it is very similar to that. However, this is a lot faster with 612 horsepower. This thing really goes, guys. I mean, twin turbo, 3.9 liter V8. In fact, let's show you the engine right now, because that's what you want to see, right? So in order to open the engine, you got to kind of push this in right here to open the car, which is kind of unusual. It's good for aerodynamics. And right there is your engine release for the Roma. I will tell you, really got to slam that door. Now, in order to get this open, you just put your right here and you pull left. So it's left, right here. Right here, left, okay? Here is your 3.9 liter twin turbo V8. You got the red plenums here, the air intakes. You got, you know, it's just great looking, guys. I mean, you can see here, it's got the chassis number right there, dead center. Double air intakes here, double air intakes there. Really a good looking car, good looking engine especially. Not carbon fiber here. I will say though, this is very, very light. And overall, this is definitely one of the pieces de resistance of this particular car. This engine is fantastic, makes torque everywhere. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are in the RPM band. If you're at 2,500 RPMs, it's got a lot of torque. If you're at 7,000 RPMs, it's got a lot of top end power, right? This thing does redline at 7,500 RPMs. And let me tell you, you're not going to be lacking performance. Now, before we get into the actual spec of this car, I'm going to show you the plate. I just wanted to tell you about my favorite angle and part of this car, and that is the rear end. I really like the rear end of the car. I'm always a fan of that GT look, right, with the big bonnet and the nice sloped, you know, curvy back end, and I love the quad exhausts. These exhausts here are blacked out. If you go to the configurator, that's actually an upgrade, and there are 2 on each side, and I just really like the way this looks. It kind of has that Porsche look, right, where the line goes right across it. All the new modern Porsches, right, the 992s, etc., they have that nice look. And I wanted to show you the trunk real quick and the spec plate. In order to open it, the button is right here. It is not automatic, it is spring loaded though. As you can see, that's your button to open. But look at the plate on this particular car. So if you know anything about Ferraris, they give you this nice, and it's like laser etched, guys. It's really nice. But look at the amount of upgrades this son of a F has. I mean, look at it. This thing has got it all. So, a lot of goodies here. As you come down, you can see the trunk. You can get quite a bit of stuff in here. It goes pretty far back. You've also have the ability to lay the seats down, so the seats do fold. You just hit that and they fold forward. So that is kind of a nice fun feature. You also have the extra stuff underneath here. You know, you've got some tools, you got your Ferrari inflate kit, all that stuff. I mean, this literally is a brand new car. Also comes with a card cover, and I don't even know what this is. God knows it's probably a welcome package from Ferrari. I am not gonna be opening this up. This is for the owner to do. Let's see, marketing manager, worldwide Ferrari. So that is probably a nice welcoming kit. It's got your books in it, I'm sure, all that good stuff. But nice size trunk. I think you could absolutely get away with a couple of overnight bags, take a nice weekend trip. Again, this is more of the GT car. Now, as we come on into the interior, you know, it's got the carbon fiber side sill here. It's got the JLB system. This has a nice aluminum trim on it. It's got the Alcantara leather stitch line here. I really like the design. It's really modern, it's nice. You've got your memory seats here, your rear trunk release there. You know, overall though, you can see the carbon, or not carbon, but the plastic really does come far in. You do have to kind of climb over that. But again, I like that this is plastic and not carbon. It's probably gonna get beat up a little bit with the road. You do have your shields on the seat, that's an upgrade. Got your color contrast stitching, got your Alcantara inserts, that was an upgrade as well. Carbon fiber paddles, carbon fiber here on the steering wheel. I really do like the design of the overall car, guys. It's nice. As you can see, the top is all leather stitched. Very, very modern. So I'm gonna go ahead and sit in the car here and show you all the interior. Let's get in this car. Now, I will tell you, you really gotta slam that door to get it shut. I have tried, you know, getting that door shut gingerly multiple times and it will not. So it's one of those little quirks with this particular car. Maybe it's Romas in general, but this particular car, definitely that door will stay. It is open and drive you crazy. Now, as you can see, this is super modern. I mean, wow, you got a screen here, you got a screen here, you got a screen here. So you got 3 infotainment screens in this car. You got all these buttons that light up. You got buttons over here that light up. You got buttons here. It's a lot, guys, and I will tell you, you even got buttons up here, right? So you've got, you know, some other things here. You know, here's your light. Nobody's showing you that. LEDs. Is this lock? I don't even know what some of these do, to be honest with you. I have to look those up. This is nice. I just noticed this. This is all leather stitched. So nice leather stitch headrest. Again, the whole front is leather stitched. And if you are wondering, you do have some back seats back here, but I wouldn't sit back here personally, being 6 feet tall. And if you feel like torturing a friend of yours, or you got some young kids, you could get away with it. So technically it's 2+2, but I don't think your adult friends are gonna wanna sit back there. It's more of a you and a friend car going down a back road. Now, as you can see, you have this really nice modern screen. It's very iPad looking. You have the ability to adjust the screen right here. And it's a little interesting. You gotta I mean, right now I've gotta close the trunk apparently. I don't even know if it'll let me get that screen. See, look, it's saying bonnet open, but it won't let me get rid of the message. So again, I guarantee you guys, there's a learning curve with this system. And it is it's intuitive, sure, but you know, it works. You're just gonna have to have a little bit of getting used to it. You know, you can easily adjust by touching here, you know, you've got Apple CarPlay built in, you've got the ability to change your seat here, warm, cool, etc. You know, it's pretty straightforward from that point of view. To get into gear, now this is interesting. So you put your foot on the brake and then you push this, automatic, manual, right? Obviously the car's not on. So that's just something that is kind of cool. It does have this little red light here that lights up. As you'll see in my point of view drive, I mentioned that again, but at the end of the day, you got your Manatino switch here. This adjusts it from sport, comfort, and then you've got race at the very top. Right now, the car defaults in sport mode, I believe. So just FYI on that one. You do have another button down here. You just got a lot of different things going on the steering wheel specifically. Your turn signals, left, right, etc., right? You've got your cruise control here. You've got your lights. If you like having buttons on your wheel, you're gonna love it. This is obviously not the GT Porsche look, right? They're going the opposite direction with no buttons, although the new 992s do have buttons on the steering wheel. They brought that back. The older GT cars got rid of all of them. But there are no turn signals here. So again, a little bit of a learning curve there. But I do love the feel of the steering wheel. The leather's really supple. It's nice. It's got a great feeling in your hand. It's really punched up, right? All the haptic feedback feels really nice. Like overall, it's a very high quality steering wheel, high quality product. You know, do I like this? I do. I think it's modern. It's not necessarily the best touchscreen I've ever felt, but I could absolutely get used to this. This is kind of cool. This screen here, you have a couple of abilities to use it. You know, you could have your audio, and then obviously I would probably keep it on performance. That shows you your RPMs and your speed. That makes it a little bit more fun for your overall passenger, you know, especially if you're on the track or whatnot. Not that you would be taking this car on the track. So yeah, first impressions of the interior, you know, you got a cup holder here, you got a place to put your phone, you got a little bit more storage, including your phone charging down there. I like this design. It's very McLaren, it's very modern looking. I would prefer more of an analog gauge cluster personally. I reviewed the F8, I've reviewed other Ferraris. You know, the 458 has that beautiful manual analog gauge tack, right? And they still give you a little screen on the right like Porsche does, but this is fully TFT, and you know, it's cool. You can change it based on the mode and stuff, but in the end of the day, if you're coming from an analog car, there's definitely going to be a learning curve. But thankfully, this is not a hybrid car, so you don't get an EV plug-in or anything like that, but it comes across like it's an EV, or it comes across kind of like it's a, you know, a modern hybrid car from the interior on a first. I'll say the pedals are really nice. They feel like my very punched up sim racing unit upstairs. These have really nice feedback to them. Not necessarily the kind of car you're going to want to drive in long distances without shoes on. I will tell you, these can get a little uncomfortable. The brakes are very powerful on this car. These carbon ceramics, they're very bitey. And but overall, I really like the inputs that you do have with the car through your feet. It just feels nice. And yes, you can adjust the steering wheel up, down. It's full tilting in any direction. I do like that they did the leather all the way around here, though they did not carry the stitch line like Porsche does. Overall, though, I really think you're going to like the interior of this car. I will say the seats are on the sporty side, but they're very comfortable. They're nothing like Porsche carbon buckets. They're nothing like the McLaren sport seats or anything like that. So they really are nice seats. I think you're going to enjoy the time that you do spend in this car. Real quick, guys, I wanted to show you what the pass-through looked like. Hopefully you can see that. The lighting's not really great right now, but you know, it's cool. I mean, you know, if you got to get some stuff back there, you know, it doesn't go all the way down, but I think if it's something fairly light, you could slide it in there like maybe a overnight bag or something that would fit in that spot. But that's kind of a nice feature that they did that. Definitely gets you some more gets you some more backspace there. Otherwise, back here, could I fit? Let's find out. Well, guys, I can fit, like physically contort myself into the space for you, but this is not something that I would want to experience on a drive. And keep in mind, the seat is all the way forward. And so if you were to take the seat and put it back at all, frankly, I'm not gonna be able to fit. I mean, unless the driver is like 5'2" and maybe I could, you know, contort my legs like this, right, where they're split to make it work, but this is not a comfortable back seat. It's more for looks, but you could throw a bag back here, some groceries, etc. So it's nice to have it. It's kind of like the Vanquish. The Vanquish back seats are completely worthless. I do like the fact that you can roll that seat down like I just showed you. That's pretty cool. I also will say my head is literally right up against the leather, so it's a coupe. It is what it is. If you're looking for something with 4 seats, probably want to go more towards the Lusso, not this one. Moving on to the wheels. So this has 245/20 wheels. These are obviously the yellow carbon ceramic brakes. They have 6 different wheel options you can get on the Roma. This particular option is one of my favorites. It's the forged wheels with the diamond cutting, so it has this nice diamond polishing on the outside. Again, only a 245 tire on the front. All right, coming to the rear of this car, guys, you have a 285 rear tire. So again, it's a lot of horsepower, 600 plus horsepower on an only 285 rear tire. If you didn't have traction control on, I'm telling you, this car is going to get squirrely on you real fast with that amount of torque. I mean, 560 foot-pounds of torque on a car that only weighs 3,600 pounds, right? So I got to be honest with you, you got to keep traction control on and take it a little ginger because you don't have a ton of rubber back there. But overall, I do like that there are 20-inch wheels on that. That'll save you a little bit of money on these tires versus these 21s, 22s that some of these modern cars are having. Overall, though, really nice looking car. You know, it's interesting to have it in this particular black color. This is a non-metallic black, guys. So in the sun, it is just black. It is jet black, dark black, whatever you want to call it. There is absolutely no way of hiding dust or fingerprints or anything like that. Now, you just heard the parking sensors, right? So as you walk around the car, and I will tell you, if you're reversing in this car, there's a lot of parking sensors. This thing is very, it just sounds like some, you know, like crazy, like, oh my God, don't crash, don't crash. You could be 5-6 feet away from something. So it's very sensitive with that. You can see up here, the headlights have this nice LED look. Now, a few things I'm gonna point out. I'm actually a real fan of the way they did the design of this particular car. This is where your Distronic Cruise would be, right here. This one does not have it. And then as you come around, excuse me, you can see here that this plastic carries through the front. So the plastic carries through here, but you do have a little bit of paint as a piece right here. Again, I don't really understand why they necessarily did that. If you're gonna have plastic, you might as well have the plastic here and the paint here. Well, probably less likely to get damaged, but it is what it is. But I think it's a great looking car. The engine's sexy as hell, no doubt about that. And overall, I mean, it's a nice piece of kit for the money. I mean, you're talking about a $250 MSRP car before options. This one's at $316. These are depreciating a little bit, guys. You can get a little bit of money off on a used one. This particular owner did take advantage of that. This car only actually had 50 miles, but it was sold as a used car. The original owner just really never bought it. It was in a big collection and whatnot. So, you know, he got 10% off the car. I thought that was a pretty fair deal. So no over MSRP on Romas. As you guys know, Ferrari does not sell any of their cars, at least originally. They're only selling them to you at MSRP. They do not play the Porsche games. They do not play some of these games that other manufacturers are playing with over MSRP.
Real quick, guys, one of the things I really like about the car is the key. It's very nice. It's square. It's got a nice metal feel to it. And it's also got a nice leather backing on this side. It's one of the most nice punched up cool keys I've seen in a long time. So very cool key. Good job, Ferrari.
All right, guys, welcome to our point of view drive on the Roma. So first impressions, the seat is aggressive but comfortable. I will tell you there's a lot going on this steering wheel here. You got this big old screen in front of you, the screen over here. So basically you got a small iPad and a big iPad. So definitely a little just kind of overwhelming, I think, if you're coming from a more analog car. Like for example, the start-stop switch is right here. And again, it just takes a little getting used to. You know, you have this screen here that you can scroll and click and all that stuff, which is kind of fun. It's not super intuitive initially, as you can see. Now it's scrolling through and I have my navigation. Very modern though, the screen's high quality. But to put the car in drive, it's literally this. The car will not go anywhere until you give it some fuel. As soon as you do, she'll engage that dual 8-speed clutch and then you're off. Now I'm starting off coming out of my neighborhood here in automatic mode. You can hear the car is pretty quiet. We're already upshifted, I think 3 or 4 different times. So this car is tuned in normal mode for fuel economy. You're getting 17-22 highway right. It's very efficient, it's very modern. They're trying to meet those high European, standards with emissions and, all these different things that you keep reading about. So this is definitely tuned for that easy, livable daily driving from hello. Now, the brakes, I will tell you, when you go to push them, they're bitey. These are absolutely carbon ceramics. If you've ever driven Porsche carbon ceramic brakes or any other Ferraris with these types of, brake pads, they're definitely more track focused. You don't have to push very hard to get them to initiate. It's, in fact, if you're not careful, you could very easily throw your passenger through the windshield. So you got to have a little bit of, got to give it a little push, nothing crazy, and she'll get you stopped, no problem. Now, again, easy to drive. Like the steering in this particular mode, I mean, you don't really necessarily know you're in a Ferrari. I will be honest with you. It could be just a nice daily driver of the world. The air conditioning's working great. Just feels like a new modern car from hello. Now, if you do want to go ahead and get into the more sporty stuff, I will tell you with 612 horsepower, this car gets down with the best of them. And we're going to do that in our point of view drive today. We're gonna take it easy. We're still on public streets. We're gonna do maybe 710, but I wanna give you a little taste of what it can do. Really, if you want to take your Roma to the track, I mean, I'm sure 5% of owners are actually gonna do that, but that's truly where you're gonna be able to exploit the car, because you just can't put 600 horsepower, you know, with a 36-pound car. You can't use that on the street. I mean, not unless you just feel like going to jail. So I will tell you though, if you do put your foot on the gas, look how smooth that is, right? You got 560 foot-pounds of torque. So you got a lot of torque. You really don't have to push the gas very hard at all to get up to speed. And in fact, it's probably one of the easiest cars to just kind of putz around in. Boy, those brakes though. It's just, you really gotta watch it. They are extra bitey. This car has no miles on it. It's a 180-mile car, so we're literally breaking it in for the first time. It's probably never even been redlined. It's probably not even past a break-in period. So again, we're gonna take it easy, but at least you know this is exactly what it comes from the box, out of the wrapping, pretty much. So again, a car you can absolutely lug around town. 8th gear. It's doing virtually no RPMs. In fact, it's probably tuned a little too mundane. I mean, you know, again, I understand there's different modes and it's nice to have this normal mode, but I really think that if you buy this car, you're going to want to either put it in manual mode or definitely turn up the aggressiveness a little bit. Because, I mean, gosh, it's unbelievable. Like, it's in 8th gear doing 48, 47, 45. Let's see actually when it shifts. Yeah, I mean, it goes down to like 33 miles an hour darn near to get to 7th gear. I mean, that's unreal. So clearly tuned for fuel economy. Now, we're driving up to my road right now to get some good drone shots and a nice front montage for you. So we're going to pick this back up. We're going to do our spirited drive here in a little bit. But I will just tell you right there, coming up that hill, I mean, you just have virtually no power. I mean, this thing does have a ton of torque, so it doesn't require that much, but I actually had to kind of push the fuel a little bit just to kind of get over that hill. Again, it's just tuned for fuel economy, not the end of the world. Does have the ability to manual shift, does have the race mode. But it's funny because, see, look, now that I gave it half throttle, right, it's like, oh, now you want to go. And it takes a good 2-3 seconds to kind of downshift and kind of get back into go mode. So that's just normal mode. I wanted to let you know, that's what it starts out when you just get in the car. Well, guys, we were on our wonderful spot here, and this guy was in a truck going way too fast and ran over my shoulder mount and our camera bag. Missed the DJI drone by 4 inches, and so the camera bag had a Canon camera in it that's probably at one point in time was worth over $3,000, and then 2 of our 3 lenses were damaged. Our macro lens, our wide angle lens, and so that's gonna be another easy $1,500 probably all said and done. So really bad luck. I mean, he's like, well, why'd you have yourself in the middle of the road? I'm like, man, we've done, I don't know, 150 shots. And interestingly enough, Carol, the owner of the property that this road's on, came over and was really sympathetic to us because she knows me. And she goes, I'm really sorry about that. He actually just wrecked at the end of the street. And I'm going to call his dad and let him know he's going way too fast through my property, basically, because this road is 220 acres. She owns most of it, right? Although it is a public street. So anyway, really bad luck. I feel bad for Brian. So we're gonna have to shoot it POV like this for a little bit. In order to put this thing in manual mode, you literally have to push this little switch right here. Brian, show this right here, okay? And there's this little red button that goes down, which is really cool. Now that's manual mode. Now you have 8 gears on this thing. I will tell you, at 50 miles an hour, you're really gonna wanna be in 4th or 3rd to start really feeling the power band. The engine goes all the way to 7,500 RPMs, and it comes alive, as you can imagine, pretty low in the RPM band. Because it's a twin turbo, the torque, I mean, the 560 foot-pounds of torque kicks in right around that mid to low 2s, right? It's pretty easy to spool up the turbo, so there's not a lot of lag anywhere. What that allows you to do is have just prodigious amounts of power pretty much anywhere in the rev band. Like, for example, I'm in 5th gear right now, and if I go ahead and give it full beans, I mean, boom. I mean, we're both shifted back into our seat, having maybe 2.5, 3 seconds on the fuel, right? Just enough to get the turbo spooled up, because, you know, even though we're only in a 28, 3,000 RPM limit. So a lot of power. That's great for passing power, guys. You're gonna have no problem on the highway with this car. Absolutely easy to just really, you know, daily drive it, like I said, because you just have tons of torque. Now, top end power is pretty incredible too on this thing. I mean, when you really push it, it is fast. It really is. I mean, that was half throttle. I know, it's pretty impressive. And I will tell you, the dual clutch transmission, which comes out of the SF90, is very, very capable in this car. And it's a good thing this car, frankly, has traction control, because 3,600 pounds, that amount of horsepower, the way it's tuned, the torque, you could easily lose the back end on this car. So you really do notice the technology kind of keeping you in, you know, frankly, on the road, keeping you going forward. I'll be honest with you there. You know, every time I give this thing even half throttle, I'm like, wow, you know, you just kind of know that the nannies are helping you out so that you don't end up in a tree. This is one of those cars I really would not turn off traction control unless I was on a track. I just think that it's a lot of horsepower. It's a pretty light car, you know, for a car that only has 3,600 pounds and rear-wheel drive. But having said that, the driving feel, now that I'm in manual, the steering, I'm going to go ahead and turn it to, so that's race. I'm going to turn it to sport. It does change up, I believe, the steering a little bit. Let's turn it on race and find out. We'll tell you, from changing it, still shifts pretty much similar. Feels a little louder on the exhaust. Shifts are really good, guys. This transmission rocks. I do find myself short shifting the car a lot though, just because of the fact that I got so much power, I just don't need to rev it out, right? I mean, 7,500 RPMs, I haven't even gotten close to 6 yet because I'm running out of road. So this is one of those cars that, you know, you really got to watch it on the street. It's just a lot of power, you know. Having said that, is it fun? Heck yeah, it's fun. I mean, you got all the power in the world. It sounds pretty darn good, as you can hear. I mean, that's 4,900, 5,000 RPMs right there. So the car definitely has a great sounding V8. It's only a 3.9 liter, but really sounds good. I mean, there you go. You know, just a little bit of gas and you're 40 to 70, right? Just a little bit of fuel. And so really, if you want to push this car, guys, you're just going to have to take it to a very unpopulated area, kind of like where we're in right now. I mean, these are the back hills of Tennessee. Really, the only thing I'm concerned about out here is deer, you know, and somebody coming out of their driveway. But I will say, you know, the transmission's great, the brakes are great, the steering input's great. It doesn't feel as good as maybe, you know, a hydraulic, you know, like it's not like my Miata where you just feel everything in the road, right? Or anything like that. It's definitely electric, and you could call it a little numb, but I like it. I mean, it definitely, you know what the front tires are doing. I will say, I think the car is fun to drive. I mean, bottom line, it's still a Ferrari. You know, I mean, I reviewed the F8 not long ago, and that thing had even more horsepower, and it was mid-engine. But I will tell you, I couldn't really tell the difference between this car and that car as far as mid-engine / front engine, because the engine's so far back behind the front axle, it's pretty much a mid-engine car anyway. One of the things I think you're going to have to just get used to in this car is a lot of the technology and a lot of the car adjustments, from the Manantino switch to your turn signals to a lot of the infotainment changes, are all through the steering wheel. including your windshield wipers, including your cruise control. Now this one does not have adaptive cruise. That was an upgrade, and I'm not a huge fan of that because it does put a nice little chunk of like a radar looking, you know, square in the right hand side of the car. But I will tell you that everything is adjusted through the steering wheel regardless, and so it's just one of those things that if you like that, it's cool. But you know, turn signals on the steering wheel, a couple of cars have it now. It just takes some getting used to if you're used to a turn stock, but you're gonna figure that out real quick. The touch screen in the middle here, you know, I know a lot of the reviewers didn't like it. It's fine. It's not the most intuitive system. It's not the most, you know, as far as haptic feedback and response, you know, but you can easily adjust your AC controls. Bluetooth works great. Apple CarPlay worked great. From that point of view, it's not a problem. And I do like the overall design aesthetic of the whole car, the way it kind of waterfalls and then waterfalls over to the passenger. And you will notice, Brian, show them the screen. This one does have the screen here. It doesn't really show you all that much. So let's go to performance there. So now you can see that you do have the ability to see my RPMs and my speed, and that's kind of cool. I kind of vibe with that, right? So that's kind of a fun little touch. It's up to you if you want to get the screen or not. I think it's kind of a fun gimmick for your passenger, but I don't know if you want to save some money, but I would probably spec that. I just think that's a fun little feature. Another thing that I noticed is this car is registering speed limit signs as we drive. So every time we go past a 40 or a 50 mile per hour speed sign, it's actually coming up with that and showing me my speed, you know, what the speed limit is. I just think that's kind of an interesting touch that they did. I don't know if that's a package that they included, but I am seeing that. As you can see right now, it's saying that we're in a 50 mile per hour speed zone. And so there you go, right? Otherwise, guys, this is a really approachable car. You know, some of these cars I get into and I review, they scare the hell out of me. This one has a ton of power, a ton of performance, but it's not scary to drive. I really think that it's fun and it's usable power, but it's a lot of power. Like, you gotta have self-control with this thing. If you really want to just, like, I would not hand this car to anybody who's not a mature individual and who doesn't understand that you can run out of road exceptionally fast in this car. You really gotta be mindful of that gas pedal, just because it's so much performance. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's underrated, but if it's not, 560 foot-pounds of torque, I mean, think about that number. It's massive. 560 foot-pounds of torque. That's just unreal, and you really feel it in this thing. I mean, when you do this, and then you give it the beans, I mean, wow. Like, you are propelled into the back of your seat. It really moves, and it gets your heart going. I'll tell you that right now, because I can attest in the moment. But again, great car, great power plant. Ferrari has won Engine of the Year after year after year with their turbocharging technology that they came out with the 488, and they really nailed it. You just don't even know the car's turbocharged, other than the fact that it just has all of this torque everywhere, which that's a good sign. You just don't really hear the turbochargers. You don't hear any blow-off sounds. You just hear the exhaust note. So it's just really great technology, truly voodoo. Hats off to you, Ferrari, for just making world-class engines that are pretty fuel efficient. You know, 17 miles a gallon minimum. That's pretty solid around the city. But yet you still get all the performance. You get a pretty darn good soundtrack coming out of that exhaust. Yeah, I mean, you could take, what I'm trying to say is, with the looks department, you could either take it or leave it, but with the performance department, I don't really care what you tell me. This thing is dialed in. Like, it is an absolute land missile. That the start-stop in this car can drive you absolutely crazy. It's very, very sensitive. Like, when you go, even if you're not at a complete dead stop, the car will shut off. I heard other reviewers say that. You can disable it right over here on the left by just hitting that A, which is turns off start-stop. Again, I really wish that was off by default, and then you could then turn it back on when you wanted it. But unfortunately, every single time you turn the car on, you're going to have to manually do that, and that does kind of become frustrating. Gotta be honest about that.
Yeah, real quick, guys, I wanted to show you just some of the technology on the car. You can see this particular one is equipped with surround camera, 360 camera. You also have a front camera. I'm at the gas station, guys. A couple of last details I want to point out. One is you really got to slam this door to shut it. It's just one of those cars that you cannot like gingerly close the door. Does not have soft close. The other thing I wanted to mention is just a couple of things. One is the paddles are mounted here, and I am wearing gloves right now because it's really hot today. I cleaned the car last night. This is day 2 of having the car, and I just can't keep my hands from sweating, so I put these gloves on. You can judge me all you want, go in the comments. But this right here has the paddles mounted on the actual steering column, which I much prefer. So if you're in a turn, you can still shift. You know, this car's got a dual clutch. You can definitely shift in turns. I know some of my commenters are like, why would you shift in a turn? Well, there are reasons and times to do it. As somebody who tracks a lot, again, it's impossible to get fingerprints not on certain areas of the car, especially here. You can see I cleaned this last night, and look how clean this all is. If you touch this anywhere, it leaves a fingerprint. Same with this, same with that. So if you're an OCD guy, you know, just be mindful that you might not be in love with this car necessarily. And the other last thing I noticed is because there's no way, like for example, there's no park, like our manual automatic, right? But there's no park. So if you were to open the door right now, for example, it puts park on itself. There is the ability to push this button right here, and that's nice. See, I had to close it that hard to get it to shut. If I close it just gingerly, right? Like, see, it's still open. So again, a little annoying. You just really got to give it a good old push. But again, there is no park. So that's just one thing I noticed, you know, like for example, if you're kind of just wanting to get out of the car real quick, it will auto put you in park. But again, there is no, like, if I just want to sit here, and I'm currently in neutral, so if I was on a hill, I'd have to keep my foot on the brake, or I'd have to come down here. There is no button for park. You know, guys, I'm in the car and I'm on the highway right now. It's pretty loud in this car. They didn't go with a lot of sound insulation. I think Harry's Garage registered the decibel level at 78. These Bridgestones are pretty good. I think if you go with a louder tire, you're definitely going to hear it a lot more if you go with like a Cup 2 of the world. But if you stick with a PS4, PS5, or a Bridgestone like it comes with, but I mean, it's 78, 80 miles an hour. I mean, you can hear it. You know you're in a sports car. It's pretty slipstream. You're not hearing a lot of wind necessarily up front. You just hear the overall tires. So be mindful of that. And the last thing I wanted to mention is the build quality. Outside of the door having a rough time closing, and the trunk also has a hard time closing, it's pretty darn good in here. Really, everything has a high quality click, good feedback. I'm not hearing a lot of rattling. Now, I understand this car literally has 200 miles on it, so it's brand new. That might get worse, but out of the box, in a lot of ways, it feels very high quality, very Porsche. You know, it just doesn't have any rattles or squeaks in it that I could really tell. I will add, you can see the wing in your rear mirror when it comes up, and it does come up at 60 miles an hour. I think depending on the mode, it might be a little more aggressive. Like when I was in race, it was staying up pretty much the entire time, even if I wasn't going 60 miles an hour. Whereas when I'm in sport or comfort, it was lowering below a certain speed. But you can see it back there. I don't know if it's picking up in the camera or not. So just a heads up.
I appreciate you guys watching my review of the Roma. Just to sum it up, I mean, look, this is an interesting car in Ferrari's lineup. I think the owner is going to love it because it's more of a grand touring car. You know, my uncle bought this car. He lives up in Boston, and he's, you know, he's in his 60s, and he loved it. And he thinks it's a great piece of kit. And the current owner is also in his 60s. So they have a target audience for this car. I don't think it's going to appeal to a 20-something-year-old. But if you need a grand touring car, you like the speed and the performance, the comfort factor, the livability of it, it really checks a lot of boxes. It's really good looking. It's got a really modern interior. It's comfortable. Ton of performance. I mean, that engine, Lord, it's almost too much for the street. I mean, this thing's got the goods, no doubt about it. Really like the Z8 8-speed transmission. Really drove great. I gotta say, from the driving point of view, I got no negatives. That engine is just unbelievable. Really, I don't have any negatives of the car at all. I mean, I like it. I really do. I'm sitting here looking at it and it's grown on me a tremendous amount. It's just a great looking car. It's a really modern, cool design, but it's also slightly understated and adult. You know, it doesn't come out, doesn't have a bunch of like flashy fins and all these little cutouts that all these new modern RS Porsches have and stuff. It's just classy. And it's really a nice car. Everybody that saw this car loved it today. It got a lot of looks on the road. This is one of those cars that, you know, is just a gentleman's car. It really is. I really think that these are going to do well in the market. I don't know how they're going to hold up value-wise. I doubt this is ever going to be less than 200 grand. Maybe it will be one of the rare Porsches that depreciate, but right now, I think this is a lot of car for the money, frankly. And I really think these are going to do well. So those are my thoughts. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop a comment below. Let us know if you own one of these. Let us know if you have any experience in one. I can't thank you guys enough for clicking the thumbnail and watching. Driven Productions is my passion project. We love shooting car content in the HQ here. We really appreciate you taking a moment out of your day to watch this, and we hope you learned something. I'll talk to you guys on the next one.